Now for my handles. This is the way I do my handles. This is a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. I put a strip on the bottom here that sticks out a little bit farther, and there's also a strip on the bottom over here that's up underneath the plywood just to keep it in the groove. Okay? Keep it in the groove. I'm going to have to retract this. I still got my dado blade on there, but I don't use my dado blade. I use regular blade. Just a nice carbide tip blade for the table saw. I have this one piece long so I can clamp this right here to keep this apparatus in place. Okay? Now I got a 3/4 inch piece of plywood. I did flip it over and use my dado blade and cut this groove out. The reason is when you flip this up, your board is going to be on here that you're cutting your handle in, and that right there got in my way. I needed to take the board up a little bit higher, and the only way I could do is cut a groove in there. So I got these clamps at Harbor Freight, and they just screw on here. They just screw on here, and there is some settings. I got a bolt here and a bolt right there, and there's a couple extra holes, and all that's for is your sideboards and your inboards, longer and shorter. And then the two other holes here are for, this is a deep, and then this is a medium, and then this is a short box. So this is a piece of 3/4 inch plywood. I put another piece of 3/4 inch plywood on top of it, as you can see. Some door hinges. There's the nuts up there too for my bolt holes, so I can scoot this thing over if I want to. I realized my board was on here and it was too low, so I had to screw me on a couple more strips here. So another 1/4 inch piece of plywood here would work, but everything's still a little bit too low. So I got my hinges on there so I can flip this apparatus up. And all I do, let me get my example board here. All I do is I get this centered and I raise my blade up through here. And I make sure it doesn't touch my hinges. I probably could have built it better where the hinges wouldn't get in the way, but that's the way I did it. Making sure that my blade will come up through there without touching anything, and I clamp it to the table saw. Then I lay my inboard on here, or my sideboard, just like so. Now this one has several tests cut in it. Clamp it down, and then I start raising my blade with it running. And as soon as my blade starts touching the bottom of this board, I start fanning this. As you can see, it's going down into that groove right there. Where you at? See, it's going down into that groove right there. And I start fanning this. Zip, zip, just like that. And I'm constantly up under here on the crank, slowly raising my blade just so it's slowly carving this out. And I just go back and forwards and back and forwards and back and forwards. And after about 6 turns, it's all the way up. And I have a nice cut. So where it's coming straight up, it's coming right into there. And then when you do the actual fold, you're actually doing this cut, the pocket cut. Now make sure you get it all right, because you don't want this flat, and sometimes it'll leave a little lip right here. And when I get done, I got my belt sander and I just go along, just go zip. It just takes me about a half a second to make sure there's not any kind of lip right there. But that's the way I do it. And like I said, you can set this jig up with extra holes. Holes don't have to be perfect, the handles, but you know, you can put some screw holes in here where you can move this thing. There's a hole right there where that shadow is. I still can't hardly see it, but you see my other hole here, how far away it is for the sides and the ends. And then the other holes here. But that's the way I built it, and you just got to start stacking it up. The problem is, like I said, I had to put these 2 extra strips on here, because with it sitting flat on here, I could raise my blade up and go all the way through the wood. And you don't want that, so I had to raise it up a little bit. Okay?